Welcome to the Elusive Truth with Rich and Larry. I'm your host, Rich. Larry will be with us soon. He's still in Detroit. He's getting some treatment. Hope you're feeling better, Larry. And with that, let's get started. We're going to start off with Dr. Steve Turley. You won't believe what's happening in Cuba. I mean, it's getting crazy. It's amazing. All these places that I grew up as a kid, communist countries and the dictators, and wow, the world really is changing in 2026. So let's have a listen. Dr. Steve Turley, you won't believe what's happening in Cuba.
Is changing. History is unfolding, and we have a front row seat. While Operation Epic Fury dominates the headlines, President Trump just dropped a bombshell about the nation of Cuba. The communist regime is collapsing. And what's coming next will reshape the entire political map of the Americas in ways we haven't seen since the end of the Cold War. Stick with me to the very end of this video because we're going to see a pattern emerging all across Latin America that has the political right celebrating and the woke left absolutely panicked. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patriot professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Analysts across the globe are all saying it. We've simply never seen anything like this.
What you're hearing is Cuban residents protesting in the streets, hundreds if not thousands, openly defying the communist government.
Libertad! Libertad! Freedom! Freedom! It's the Braveheart chant. The arrest of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has been catastrophic for the communist regime in Cuba. The fuel shortage has brought daily life on the island to a complete standstill. Garbage is piling up on the streets because the trucks can't run. Rolling blackouts across the entire country are now more and more frequent. Food shortages, medicine shortages. Nearly 11 million people on an island with no money, no oil, no allies left. And the people are rising up. And Trump is answering their cries.
He quickly turned to Cuba. He said, without being asked, Cuba is going to fall pretty soon, by the way, but Cuba is going to fall. They want to make a deal so badly. And I asked, how so? He said, they want to make a deal, so I'm going to put Marco over there, and we'll see how that works. But we're really focused on this one now, meaning Iran. We've got plenty of time on Cuba.
And this isn't just talk. The Telegraph is now reporting that Trump is negotiating an actual deal with the Cuban regime, an off-ramp that would allow Diaz-Canel, their president, and the Castro family to remain in Cuba without facing prosecution in exchange for relinquishing power. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the son of Cuban immigrants, is personally leading these negotiations. And his counterpart on the Cuban side is not the current president, Miguel Diaz-Canel, but Raul Guillermo Rodriguez, the grandson of Raul Castro, the previous president, who's 94 years old, by the way, if you could believe it. So we're talking about direct negotiations between the son of Cuban exiles and the grandson of the revolution's founding family. I mean, you could not possibly script this better. And that's not random. The Trump administration views the elder Raul Castro as Cuba's true decision maker. Even though he's 94 and not officially in power, they believe he's the one the buck stops with, not their current president, Diaz-Canel, which is why they're basically bypassing Havana entirely and dealing directly with the Castros. The deal would involve lifting certain sanctions and easing restrictions on American travel to Cuba, access to Cuban ports and energy sectors for U.S. companies, tourism reopening. It would include an exit strategy for President Diaz-Canel, allowing him to step down without prosecution. The Castro family family would be allowed to stay on the island. This is the crucial sweetener. This is why this deal will most likely happen. Rather than demanding exile or punishment, the deal would let the Castros remain in Cuba with immunity. It'll certainly provoke some outrage and ire among Miami exiles, but it does mirror the very successful Venezuela approach. And of course, an end to the oil embargo, which is basically starving the island at this point. If there is no deal, the embargo remains in place, the island's degeneration continues, and it'll only be a matter of time before Cuban officials are sitting in a New York prison cell next to Nicolas Maduro, who apparently is singing like a bird as we speak. He's reportedly giving up tons of information on the narco-terrorist network in the Caribbean. So Trump is basically making the Cuban regime an offer they can't refuse. Now, Cuba's UN ambassador is characteristically dismissing all of this. He's saying it's mere speculation, and he insisted Cuba would only negotiate with mutual respect, equal conditions, and the promise of non-interference, blah, 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 blah. That's diplomatic speak for saying, yeah, we're screwed. Because you'll notice that the regime has yet to even remotely deny these talks are happening. And Trump keeps publicly confirming the talks are happening. So that suggests Havana knows exactly which way this is heading, and they're just doing their best to save face in the process. So that's where we are. Cuba is completely isolated, economically collapsing, militarily irrelevant. And now, for the first time in 65 years, they're sitting at a negotiating table with the United States discussing the terms of their own surrender. We are living in absolutely unprecedented times. Don't blink, because you might miss history in the making. It's happening that fast and that frequently. It's absolutely astonishing. But what's about to happen to Cuba and what already happened in Venezuela is actually all part of a much bigger geopolitical realignment that's happening all throughout Latin America. What we're witnessing right now, from Caracas to Havana to Buenos Aires, or from Buenos Aires, I should say, to San Salvador, is really nothing less than a civilizational realignment of the Western Hemisphere. And it's absolutely staggering in its scope. Wait till you see this big picture here, because Cuba isn't happening in a vacuum. Think about where we were just 2 years ago. Latin America was dominated by the so-called pink tide. So here in this image, you see it in red. Okay, that red means liberal. That red means left wing. It's not conservative. The continent was liberally covered by a wave of left-wing governments aligned with China, Russia, Iran, and Cuba. Venezuela, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Honduras, all governed by leftists, all hostile to the United States, many of them openly aligned with America's enemies. And now, look at the map today. That blue is all conservative. It's all right-wing. Nine Latin American countries are now governed by right-wing presidents and administrations. Javier Milei in Argentina, who just won a landslide in their midterms last October. Daniel Noboa, reelected in Ecuador. Rodrigo Paz in Bolivia. And one of his first acts, interestingly enough, was restoring diplomatic relations with Israel. Jose Antonio Cast in Chile, the most conservative president since Pinochet, elected with 60% of the vote. Laura Fernandez Delgado, she just won in Costa Rica on a crime-fighting, conservative, pro-life platform. Osfura in Honduras, who's already said he wants to deepen ties with the United States and review Honduras' relationship with China. Santiago Peña in Paraguay, Nayib Bukele in El Salvador, and of course now Venezuela, while not right-wing, certainly not right-wing, but nevertheless aligning with the United States. That's not a political shift. That is a tectonic plate moving. And it's not done. I mean, look what's coming. In Brazil, they have their elections, their presidential elections this year. Flavio Bolsonaro, the eldest son of Jair Bolsonaro, he's leading Lula by nearly 10 points in the latest polling. I mean, this is the largest country in South America, the largest economy. And Bolsonaro's son looks poised to take the place of his father and hopefully bail him out of jail as well. In Colombia, they just held legislative elections this past Sunday. The right wing is surging there. Petro, Colombia's first ever leftist president, the former guerrilla, he's been an absolute disaster. He's cycled through, I think it was like 60 ministers in 4 years. His coalition is fractured. The presidential election is in May, and the right is expected to come roaring back there. In Peru, the presidential election is April 12th, and a right-wing candidate is heavily favored to win. So that's the larger context of what's happening here. This is a seismic political realignment throughout the Western Hemisphere. Again, not all right wing, but all right aligned, as we might say. They're aligned with the United States, and that's what's so key. You often hear of American exceptionalism, but what we're seeing happening here in this realignment is American civilizationalism. This is about civilizational gravity. For decades, the Western Hemisphere, it was the one region where the liberal international order was supposed to be unchallengeable. This was America's backyard. But liberalism only ended up hollowing out our hemispheric dominance. So the Monroe Doctrine, in effect, got replaced by globalism. And as a result, for the last 20 years, we watched as country after country in Latin America drifted toward China, toward Russia, toward Iran, toward Cuba's revolutionary model. We watched as hostile regimes open their doors to Chinese infrastructure, Russian military advisors, and Iranian-backed Hezbollah cells operating out of what's called the tri-border area between Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay. What Trump is doing, whether he articulates it this way or not, is re-civilizationalizing, that's a big word, re-civilizationalizing the Western Hemisphere. He's revivifying the Monroe Doctrine now as the Donroe Doctrine. He's not just flipping governments from left to right. He's reestablishing the gravitational pull of American civilization over its own neighborhood. Sam Huntington would call it, he's reestablishing the United States as a core state for all these satellite states around us. Venezuela wasn't just a regime change, it was a signal. It told every leftist government in the hemisphere, align with America's enemies, and you will be removed. Cuba's the confirmation of that signal. And the elections sweeping the continent from Santiago to La Paz to Brasilia are all the collective civilizational response.
All I can say is that there is a lot of happy Cubans in Cuba, and especially in South Florida, Miami. A lot of Cubans have a strong heritage. They love their country, and they can't wait for the communist dictatorship to get out. It's going to be amazing. And Cuba, beautiful, beautiful people, beautiful island in the Caribbean. Amazing. The things are happening all around us at a lightning speed. 2026, I keep telling you, the year of enlightenment. Again, I want to thank Dr. Steve Turley for bringing us that. He has some informative information on a daily basis. Go ahead and check him out, Dr. Steve Turley on YouTube. For our next piece, Benny Johnson. This is a little quick snippet. Something insane was just dropped on Iran, and it is crazy. Have a listen.
What's up, guys? Did war just change forever? Iran was just hit with some type of weapon that turned the entire sky blue, and then a ball of yellow shot up directly from the ground. A fireball that went effectively into space. Was Iran just hit with a laser weapon from space? Say what now? What kind of a weapon is that? And it's linked with these other look at that. What the hell is that? Literally. What is that? Videos coming out of Iran right now. Look. That. We'll get into some of the speculation as to what this is, some of the consideration as to what is actually going on. Intense airstrikes in Kharja, Tehran right now. Okay, so what is that? Whoa. Look at that. Then suddenly it's daylight. Daylight. It's so terrifying. The power goes completely out. Boom. And then suddenly it becomes daylight in the middle of the night. The Goy Beam Discombobulator Directed Energy Weapon 420. That's just an educated guess. Space Force EMP Directed Energy Weapon. What do you think that this actually is? New energy weapon. Okay. Looks like a high altitude EMP. Okay, what is an arc power flash? People posted sort of examples. Electrical arc flash, sudden explosive release of energy caused by an electrical fault where the current travels through the air between conductors or from a conductor on the ground. This creates an intense burst of light or heat. This one's the one that's just crazy to me. I don't know. Daylight. It looks just like the sunrise in the middle of the night. Oof.
Benny Johnson, go check it out on YouTube. The visuals are amazing. As you heard, pretty much it sounds like when you hit a cable over a long distance, you hear a couple pops and that kind of a weird trailing sound. And then all of a sudden the sky lights up a light blue and it's completely dark. But for 5 seconds, it's really bright light blue and then turns yellow for another 10 seconds. Weird stuff is happening there. I'm sure we're going to find more out about whatever this new type of weapon was. Directed energy weapons are here. For more information on the Iran conflict, you definitely want to check out 2C TV on YouTube. You won't get better information from this gentleman. Amazing how he's doing his reporting. Not necessarily the United States, but the media, the news is really trying to paint a different picture, and that bad President Trump, that bad man. Anyway, Benny Johnson, go check it out. This is crazy stuff they're reporting. And there's a lot of other YouTubers out there that are presenting this crazy information as well. Thank God it's us and not them using it on our country. Wow. Moving along for our next piece, the Cartier family. Wonderful gentlemen. It's amazing. These good youth, they understand what's going on. And the content that they provide on YouTube is amazing. You need to check them out, the Cartier family. This is Bill Maher, stunned as Iranian woman shows the deep, dark secret of the Democrats. Have a listen.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, 4 Iranian agents were actually charged in absentia with trying to kidnap you.
Can you believe that?
I'd like to, okay, so tell us back. Now, why were they trying to kidnap you? What was going on?
First of all, they're scared of women. And right now that I'm talking to you, they killed a 20-year-old woman. They even are scared of her, Mahsa Amini.
Right.
But when they came after me here, my job was just giving voice to voiceless women inside Iran. I launched a campaign against compulsory hijab because I couldn't cover my hair, big hair. So, and then while I was publishing videos of women fighting back the morality police, being harassed and, in the street, filming them, that created a huge anger among mullahs because they hate when they see that women are fighting back hijab police, morality police. That's why they tried to kidnap me.
So it's really
silent.
What we're seeing now in Iran. We've seen for 2 weeks now, and it's not stopping, apparently. All these demonstrations, women have finally had enough. As you said, this young woman was killed in custody, taken in by the morality police. They claimed some bullshit about pre-existing conditions. She was a woman, I think, was the pre-existing condition. And so there's all these riots. A lot of people have died. My question to you is, now we've seen this before in Iran. There was a kind of an uprising in 2009. We saw the Arab Spring in 2011. Obviously, Persians are not Arabs, but we're talking about the same religion.
Yeah.
That's behind all this. Is this time going to be different?
Of course.
Why?
Believe me, because first of all, women are burning the headscarf. And this is not just a small piece of cloth for Iranian women and women in Afghanistan. This is the most visible symbol of a religious dictatorship. In 2009, it was about like internal fight between conservative reformists. This time from the beginning, the brutal death of Mahsa Amini created a huge anger. Iranian women not only burning the headscarves, they're actually chanting against the dictators from the first day. So the brutal death of Mahsa Amini actually became a turning point for women who have been pushing back this gender apartheid regime for years.
So
Now, where are all the people on the left who are free Palestine and all these things and LGBTQ for Palestine? Where were they whenever all this was going on? Did they have any earthly idea that this is how women in Iran are typically treated under this Sharia law? I just to be on the left and say you're a feminist and you're for women's rights, my body, my choice, and all that. That is the most opposite culture that there could possibly be in the world.
Yeah, I just don't think they believe that. Truly, I think they're just against it because Trump is the one doing it and that their side's not doing it. They don't really care about women's rights. They say men could be women. They say that men should be in women's sports and women's spaces. They don't really care. It's all the virtue signaling police, and they move the goalposts as it fits their narrative. This is the second Iranian woman we've seen that said this is a huge, huge breakthrough for women in Iran. Last one we saw on CNN. She dropped a dime on them. She said, I don't even recognize my party the way y'all against this.
They're actually chanting against the dictators from the first day. So the brutal death of Mahsa Amini actually became a turning point for women who have been pushing back this gender apartheid regime for years.
So So take me through what's going to happen in the next months or years. I mean, this regime is just not going to give up.
No, don't say that, Bill. Don't say that.
Okay, they are just going to give up.
No, because we've been seeing right now, for years and years, we had the fear inside us. Right. No? Now this is the mullahs. Believe me, the Iranian regime, they're really scared of their women. And right now, this has become a tipping point for the Islamic Republic, because it's not just in Iran. Across the world, people are watching that, wow, these fearless women walking like towards the morality police, and they're ready. And TikTok generations are being killed right now in the streets. So that scares the regime. And I always say that this, for the Islamic Republic, for Taliban, this compulsory hijab is like the Berlin Wall. Now we're tearing this wall down, and the Islamic Republic won't exist. This is the end of the...
Okay, but I hope you're right. But then you mentioned Afghanistan. We pulled out of Afghanistan. The Taliban took over, and it went right back to the bad old days.
That's why I don't have any hope on the Biden administration. I don't have any hope on Western countries. They abandoned my sister in Afghanistan. But guess who came to the streets to support Iranian women? The first group who came to the street were women of Afghanistan. Can you believe that? The Western feminists who actually went to my country, wore hijab, they bowed to the Taliban. They didn't take to the streets yet.
Why are liberals so moronic about the problem? Really,
it just breaks my heart, because for years and years, we have been warning them about the dangers of morality police. You know why? Because most of them speak in a perfect English, and they have who actually talk about Islam and Islamic countries. They never go and live under Sharia laws, but they don't even let us talk about our own experience. You know,
yes.
I grew up in a country where I was told that if you show your hair, you're going to go to jail. You will receive lashes. You will get killed like Mahsa Amini. But here they tell me that if you talk about this, you're going to cause Islamophobia. Phobia is irrational, but believe me, my fear and the fear of millions of Iranian women in Afghanistan is rational.
She just cooked the entire narrative.
That literally destroys it.
I mean, and it was multiple Democrat women that were condemning what Trump was doing in Iran. Kamala, AOC, Ilhan
what
Omar.
Trump was doing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, them.
Yeah, like they were condemning what he was doing. And this woman, and the Iranians, her and she's Iranian, they know what's really going on. Trump is doing what's best. But no, if this doesn't help their agenda, because their only agenda is Trump is bad. And anything he does is bad, even if it's good. He wants to leave it up to the states.
They not leaving
For
it
abortion?
up to the state. Boy.
I am tired of seeing some politicians here in America, especially Democrats, making this about their own politics, scoring political points like Kamala Harris. Suddenly, she kept quiet about the massacre. Suddenly, she found a voice condemning the targeted military strike against the killers. So when ordinary people get massacred, you don't have any problem? Who are you?
Donald Trump has dragged us into a war the American people do not want. He has put American troops in harm's way. I unequivocally oppose this war of choice, and everyone should. And the bottom line, when it comes down to it, is that if we want to stop Donald Trump with this random decision that he has arrived at, then Congress must act, and Congress must act immediately. The American people do not want our sons and daughters to go into this unauthorized war of choice, and I unequivocally oppose it. Thank you.
Who are you?
Wow. This is powerful, man. And I just don't see how people don't see through the left.
Women's rights, people being murdered in the streets. But y'all are the party of morality and what's right and wrong. But y'all are mean to people. They only care about what you say. They actually don't care about real violence. They don't care about violence in Chicago. They don't care about violence going on with women in the world. They don't care about violence. They don't care about crime or violence. They just care about saying words you shouldn't say, like gay.
And they are the party that said black folks couldn't get IDs. So
they think black people stupid.
You know,
they condone violence.
Really no discussion after that.
I mean, look how they acted when Charlie died. They were celebrating. When Trump almost died, celebrating. Y'all celebrate death. Y'all pass laws that increase death. When we try to stop death in the world, you don't agree with it. Why is violence not a problem to you guys? Let's not even go on the topic of how many babies y'all trying to kill in the womb. Y'all are violent on the left. I'm sorry. Look at blue cities. Where are they more violent than red cities? Keep it real.
Yeah, I'm speechless, man. She said it all. I mean, continuous cycle of the left, not they just do this stuff, like she said, for political points. And it's almost sad. You know what's really sad is Ilhan Omar doesn't care. She knows what it's like.
She knows. She should. No, she don't, though. Because I remember they said she was rich over there. So she don't know.
You sure?
Well, they say her people was prominent
or something.
Yeah, in Somalia.
Makes sense.
So she was oppressing her people over there, probably.
All right, y'all. Let's know what y'all think.
Well, my first impressions are I really didn't know that women had it so bad in Iran. I know Iran is a bad nation, terrorists, that type of thing, but the atrocities that are coming out of what the Islamic Republican Guard has done to the people of Iran is just, I am upset that it's taken this long for us to do anything about it, but at least President Trump did draw that red line and is now taking care of business. And as far as Camel Toe Harris, I mean, she's so out of touch with reality. Like I said, for the past 40 years, Democrats, Republicans, we've been beating on the regime of Iran because of the terroristic threats and death to America and the whole idea of them having a nuclear weapon. I mean, it's been out there and talked about for years and years and years. And yet now you have Democrats. I don't understand why Trump just happened to do this. He didn't even think. He just started a war and we're losing it and we're in a forever war. I mean, really, it really shows you what these people are. As I said before, let the Democrats speak. Let Newsom, let Mandami talk. Listen to them and you will find out exactly what they are and what their intentions are. Absolutely amazing. Just mind-boggling. The Democrats of 2026, unbelievable. So, with that, thank you, Carter family. Go check them out. They have awesome content. And, again, good young men that, because they're the future of America. For the next program, we're going to have Cash Jordan. He's another crazy guy that back in COVID, he was showing me apartments in New York City, and he's now turned out to be an awesome investigative reporter. Just shows you how bad our media really is, and thank God there's good people coming to our rescue. Cash Jordan, Tehran jails women's soccer team as Australia does nothing about it. Just lets them take them away. I don't know what's going on with Australia. I know I love the people there. They're awesome. But the government, just like they're in Great Britain, London, what's going on, folks? Yeah, they turned into radical Muslims, just like New York City with Mandami. Anyway, check out Cash Jordan. Amazing, amazing story. Have a listen.
On this bus are players from the Iranian women's soccer team, and people are trying to stop them from being hauled back home. This is crazy. Apparently, they didn't sing the regime national anthem, and the regime requested that they return, and people know what that means. These are protesters trying to stop the bus. Look at this, they're banging on the bus. But before that, apparently people fled the hotel.
Security agents and team officials have just realized 5 of their players are gone.
They were trying to escape through the car park downstairs.
They run down the fire escape, hoping to intercept them.
Because the elevator down to the garage takes too long, so the staircase is a better option.
Wow.
Player supporters Tina and Lee give chase, running interference.
You better run.
And hurling insults.
Wow.
What I saw, the coach, the translator, and a few other members of their security desperately trying to get to the car park themselves. They were even banging on the door.
He goes down to try to get down into the garage, and the door is locked. So whether that was locked intentionally, it's a fire escape. The door should be open.
After hitting a dead end, the group runs back up, Lee and Tina on their tails.
This is terrible.
Looks like a couple of players were trying to get out, and they found out about it.
Upstairs in the lobby, the reality of the situation sets in.
And that's when you could see the distress. He looked like a man who had failed his job.
Very distraught.
Wow. Yeah, he could face major regime consequences.
They came in and out of the hotel, back into the lobby. There was chaos with them trying to figure out what to do.
It was during this chaotic time that the girls were able to leave the hotel.
Here's a quick update on the Iranian women footballers who face threats by the Islamic Republic.
Ooh.
This morning, Australian officials confirmed that 5 of the women were granted humanitarian visas to stay in Australia, so 5 of them have essentially defected.
Wow.
This comes after a massive public show of concern from Iranians in Australia, Australians themselves, as well as a global outcry, including from Trump. There are reportedly 3 other players whose whereabouts are currently unknown, so we don't know if they fled the hotel or what's going on.
Look at this clip right here. You can see people being dragged onto this bus in Australia. Look at this. Look at how they're holding her hand. Oh, that is so frightening.
Australian media also reported that Mehdi Taj, the president of the Iranian Football Federation and former commander in the IRGC, seen here looking like he just saw his reflection in the mirror, was going to fly to Australia to ensure that all of the Iranian players came back home. The Australian government revoked his visa. However, the vice president of the federation, a woman, went in his place.
Ooh.
She told the media that pressure is being applied to the families of these girls back in Iran so that they'll return home. Here's what I want you to think about, especially because there's people out there that want you to think that this regime is not that bad. Imagine how scared these women are of what this regime could do to them, or that they chose to stay in a foreign country with no prior plan to do so, with their entire families, their friends, their lives, their homes, everything they know back in their homeland, Iran, just so they could have a shot at living free from danger, free from oppression, and free from this regime. Also important to note that many athletes have defected from Iran because of the regime's repression and violence. Also important to note that many athletes have defected from Iran because of the regime's repression and violence, and that on the 2024 Olympic refugee team in Paris, 14 out of the 37 athletes were Iranian. That's a whopping 40% of the group.
So this is a thing with Iran. That's why they have handlers at the hotel tracking people down who try to go on an unauthorized escape. And you know what this proves? This regime is losing everything, and they'll do whatever it takes to try and exert their power and terrify somebody somehow. Apparently, they were showing this hand signal on the bus to show that they were in a captive situation and they needed to be rescued while the bus was on the way to the airport. This is so crazy. And it's awful to think that this was almost allowed to happen by the Australian government. If Trump wasn't in charge, would they have capitulated and given asylum to anybody? That's the big question here. I don't want to know the answer to that question. here, allegedly, you can see them using their phones on the actual bus to flash a distress signal. This is crazy, man. The fact that this is happening, this is just so bad. They don't want to be there. Why didn't anyone stop this bus? I know 5 people ended up getting asylum, but there's still players on that bus that look like they don't want to go back that were dragged on board.
Australia is making a terrible humanitarian mistake by allowing the Iran national women's soccer team to be forced back to Iran. Don't do it, Mr. Prime Minister.
This
Give
almost
them asylum.
ended in
I think
disaster.
a lot of Americans will agree with that.
Look at this. People in Australia have more courage than their own government had up until the president got involved. People were blocking the bus. This is after people were put on the bus, looked like against their will, demonstrating against it. You know what? If the handlers on the bus wanted to end this, all they had to do was let people off the bus and have them say, hey, look, we're happy to go back. Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they get off the bus and say, hey, look, we're in great spirits. We can't wait to go back to the regime. No one's saying that. Here the local police were clearing people out of the way. By the way, if you think you're a peaceful protester in America, you need to watch this and make sure that this is how you peacefully demonstrate that you are not attacking law enforcement. But man, look at this. The world knows what's happening here, but these governments are afraid of a regime that's on its way out. For what reason? And then the other question I have is, had this taken place in America, would we have another Elian Gonzalez Cuban refugee situation from the 1990s on our hands if the wrong administration was in charge? Because look, people in Congress still want to try and stop President Trump from rescuing the Iranian people.
Solemnity of where we are. We're fighting another country, powerful country, 90 million people. But here's what I see. I see a country that is run by Jack Nicholson in The Shining. I see a bunch of religious zealots who are determined to get a nuclear warhead. They're never going to stop. Even after we bombed their nuclear facilities in June, they've already started back, and they've lied about it. I see a powerful country that's amassing anywhere from 200 to 600 missiles a month, so that eventually they'll have enough missiles to threaten the whole world and prevent us from doing something about their nuclear capability.
This regime, they do not tell the truth. Every single time they say they want to make a deal, what do? They just buy time to figure out how to break the deal later in the future, how to hide their activities. While they were negotiating with President Trump about apparently stopping their nuclear program, they were fortifying their nuclear sites. They were covering them up and hiding them. Look, here we have a 7th player who stayed in Australia. So 7 players and 1 staff member ended up staying in Australia to get asylum. Yet here's where we're at.
Here we are, well into the 2nd week, and it is still the case that the Trump administration cannot explain the reasons that we entered this war,
She's
the
not
goals
listening.
we're trying to accomplish, and the methods for doing that. The one part that seems clear is that while there is no money for 15 million Americans who lost their health care, there's $1 billion a day to spend on bombing Iran.
Colleagues on the left want hearings on Iran, and yet the Department of Homeland Security is still closed. Is that not a bigger priority than more hearings?
Right. They just want to have constant hearings on Iran.
Yeah, absolutely. The first order of business needs to fund our Department of Homeland Security. The reality is we face threats. We always face
Don't
threats.
want to do that.
And right now, with New York City being a #1 terror target, my priority is to make sure that we fund this department that was created after September 11th. And here we are on the 25th anniversary of September 11th, and you have 2 legislative leaders, Democrats, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, who are from New York and should know better than anyone what's at risk. And they're playing political games.
Right.
It is really ludicrous.
But the thing is, these people, they want to stop Trump, even if it means preserving the regime. They want to have endless hearings on the conflict over there. They want to try to pin some sort of illegal activity on the Trump administration. Meanwhile, we've got soccer teams being hauled off in buses against their will. And that's what these people are standing for, while they put the American people in danger, mind you, by not funding Homeland Security for some reason.
Threatening to spill well beyond the region as Iran is reportedly trying to activate sleeper cells abroad.
Yep.
Steve Harrigan is live at...
Morning. The U.S. reporting encrypted messages coming out of Iran in the wake of the death of the supreme leader on February 28th. These encrypted messages, perhaps radio messages, signals ABC News is reporting that an alert has gone out to law enforcement warning about the possibility of sleeper cell attacks in the U.S. President Trump addressed the risk of a sleeper cell attack.
Activated any sleeper cells inside the U.S.
They've been trying for a long time. We've been very much on top of it. We're watching every single one of them. Yeah, we know a lot about them. The biggest problem we have is the Democrat shutdown. We know a lot about them. But the shutdown doesn't allow us to do what we have to do.
Meanwhile, these are the same people that say they care about the American people, but their actions are putting all of us at risk by not funding law enforcement. But that's the whole scam of this party that exists in opposition to everything the president does. If the president's for law and order, they're not. If the president wants to rescue the regime captives, the Iranian people and the soccer bus people, they're against that. They want those people to go back. That's what these people think to themselves. They think that anything that Trump does is reprehensible because he's the one doing it, and they automatically assume the opposite position. And if something happens while they keep the government shut down, whose fault is that going to be?
Here along the border between Armenia and Iran, just a trickle of Iranians coming out, many describing scenes of total destruction and terror that they left behind.
These are people who got away.
Of course, we've seen explosions very often, from 3 a.m. till 7 or 8
Oh, he lived in Tehran.
Then nothing until midday. In the afternoon, the very heavy bombings resumed. There are 50 to 60 bombings daily. It's very scary.
I'm sure
it's unimaginable for the people with children.
Is Armenia receptive to receiving these Iranian people?
Definitely. Right now, it's just a trickle, but keep in mind, this could turn into a flood. It's one of the only open working borders. Armenia is one of those rare countries that has good relations with all the people around it, with Iran, with Russia, with the West. So it's an open border, and it could get very busy here down the line.
Steve Harrigan live.
That's crazy. So people are leaving the country however they can, but it looks like there's only one way out, through Armenia. And if you're in the wrong part of Iran right now, you might not be able to get out. And you're definitely not getting out if you're part of that soccer team, which is now being watched by handlers.
How hard would it be to do the exact same thing? Previously, we struck Iran before they struck us. When it comes to these sleeper cells, how hard would it be to do the exact same thing? Prevent these sleeper cells in our country, in other allied nations.
Close the border. Don't open it for 4 years in a row. But we didn't want to do that, did we?
The sleeper cells, or as the intel community calls it, covert lethal activities. And FBI, DOJ, intel community, DHS, they are all over it. And they actually have prevented some attacks in the past. You know, what Iran likes to do, and this is all IRGC, they hire criminals here to carry out assassination plots.
Wow.
And they've been caught and indicted trying to get Secretary Pompeo, former National Security Advisor Bolton, and of course, trying to go after President Trump himself.
And those were officials in Trump's first administration. Notice they weren't caught going after anybody in sympathetic presidential administrations. Isn't that interesting? That furthers the narrative of people on the left field side of the country that, oh, we should just appease these regimes. Then they'll leave us alone while they grow in strength and come up with weapons that can fly around the globe and reach us. Yeah, nothing to worry about.
That's one of their key activities, and we need, though, that whole of government approach. But I'm telling you, we are all over that threat. Impressive that we intercepted that encrypted communication.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that was like
it certainly is. I mean, this report, though, is very concerning. Encrypted communication that is said to have activated sleeper cells around the world. How concerned should we be about this?
Concerned enough to fund DHS.
We definitely need to be vigilant. You know, it's a multi-pronged threat.
You know what this is like? You've got Iran. What happens? They get attacked by the U.S. and Israel. Their command and control structure gets wiped out. Their radars get wiped out. The country is essentially in the dark. Their air defenses stop working. What do they do in retaliation for that? They launch a plethora of ballistic missiles at all of their neighbors. They attack Saudi Arabia. They attack Qatar. For what reason? This is just indiscriminate aggression that we're seeing from them. And we're seeing the same thing here with this apparent worldwide order to activate. It's indiscriminate aggression.
Towards our diplomats abroad in some cases, of course, as we know, towards U.S. bases and facilities around the world, and then some focus here as well. But we've had elements of Hamas, Hezbollah, et cetera, operating in the U.S. over a long period of time. I think their threat profile is really well known. IRGC always has to transfer in money to fund these operations and pay off criminals. That's another good way that we follow them.
So you can follow the money and catch these guys, which means if you have folks that entered the country under some asylum program and all of a sudden their bank accounts start blowing up from wire transfers from Iran, well, maybe you want to check that out.
The work to counter these cells started a long time ago when President Trump came in. Tom Homan, his great work, a lot of great ICE agents doing their work. But we're
ICE
still
stops
vulnerable
the sleeper
here to
cells.
some sort of activation. We are already seeing incidents across the nation, whether it's ISIS-inspired things.
Yep, like the thing in New York.
We just absolutely have to take care of one another. You better know who your first responders in your county are right now. Foreign wars no longer stay foreign.
Yeah.
Scott, that's
Which
a great
is why
point.
we need
Scott,
ICE.
The report says this, that the alert says while the exact contents of these transmissions cannot currently be determined, the sudden appearance of a new station with international rebroadcast characteristics warrants heightened situational
So we don't know what was in the signal.
Awareness. So again, it's just talking about that alert. Can you speak to that just with your background knowledge and
it's kind of suspicious.
How it exactly works?
Well, historically, the Soviet Union used a lot of the same type of thing, although it's upgraded now with more modern technology. Number stations used to transmit seemingly random transmissions, but there are sleeper cells agents within that country.
What a great parallel example. You've had this Iranian regime, which is doing business with Russia, selling drones to Russia, getting oil to China, and they are here being compared to the Soviet Union, which also oppressed its people. There were many people who were living in Soviet Union countries that fled when their sports team went overseas to do something or their college tour left East Berlin to go and do something.
Or monitoring that at certain times of the day. And they have a key. It could even be actually a book that they have in common. It doesn't even have to be anything sophisticated. It can be 2 copies of Tale of Two Cities. And the numbers can correspond to coded instructions. Now, the good news about that is that historically speaking, sleeper cells generally have not been that effective because what happens is the sleeper agent, if they've been in that country for more than a year, begin to identify more with that country. And so, of course, now with the war going very well for the United States and very bad for the mullahs, it's possible that some of these people, and we don't know how many there could be, are disheartened and basically will just never obey whatever instructions they're given.
Interesting. So this analyst says that when you have a sleeper cell put into America, maybe they come in through the open border and they set up shop here. Well, they get used to living here. They look around and they say, gee, we're not living under an oppressive regime any longer. We have freedom. We're allowed to have opinions that might be different from what our leaders have. And you know what they say? They say, gee, I'm going to try and stay here. I like it here. I don't want to get rid of this place. Isn't that fascinating? It's almost like the regime's sleeper agents have in the past done the exact same things the soccer team tried to do. What do you think about this whole issue with these soccer players that were almost forced to all return? What do you think's going on with the conflict in Iran? Are the progressive socialists in America right? Does Donald Trump really have no plan and no idea what he's doing, as they say? Or do we know exactly what's going on in this country? And is America familiar with the plight of the Iranian people? Let me know. I'll see you in the next video.
I am in shock how well this gentleman presents a story. Absolutely amazing. Covered all his facts and bases, and it's crazy. I don't understand why it's so difficult for good reporting these days. Cash Jordan, check him out on YouTube. He does daily stuff. Again, amazing and honest. So, to wrap things up, we got LV Nation. Dr. Phil snaps on Zohran Mamdani and says what everyone else is afraid to say. This is a wild piece. Have a listen.
It has not been a good week for Zohran Mamdani and New York City, as there was a actual terrorist attack in New York City, right? And Zohran Mamdani and the mainstream media have been gaslighting us throughout this whole time about the fact that this is violence, but never mentioned, the actual terrorism linked to these two individuals that were caught up. We could talk more about that. I have talked about that. You guys can watch my previous videos, but this video specifically, we're going to highlight Dr. Phil going off on Zohran and his wife. If you guys don't know, Zohran Mamdani's wife was caught in a massive scandal, right? Because people went back in time to October 7th, right? Remember that crazy, atrocious attack that then followed to a war between Hamas and what happened in Gaza and all these things. Well, there's something happening here that she did that this scandal goes on to, and Dr. Phil is about to go off. The Zohran Mamdani, NYC mayor, says that his wife is a private person, but she didn't simply just like a post. She liked whatever happened on October 7th. So again, this is getting crazy. When you talk about what's happening with Zohran Mamdani in New York City today, right? In these last few days, like, hey man, none of this is helping. And now his wife is caught in a huge scandal. Take a look at Dr. Phil going off on him and his wife over this.
For most Americans, it's nobody's business who you share your bed with. But that changes when you're married to one of the most powerful politicians in America. I'm talking about New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani and his wife, Rama Douaji. Now, being the spouse of the mayor of the largest city in America comes with a certain level of responsibility and scrutiny. And right now, Douaji deserves just a lot of that scrutiny. Report from the Jewish Insider, Douaji liked Instagram posts just hours after the October 7th attacks on Israel that celebrated Hamas assault and pushed anti-Israeli rhetoric. She liked one post claiming the October 7th mass rape was a hoax, and another showing Hamas militants breaking into Israel with tanks. And in case anyone has forgotten, on October 7th, Hamas terrorists murdered over 1,200 people and took more than 250 hostages. It doesn't matter how strongly someone supports the Palestinian cause. Anyone who likes...
Yeah, so this is the scandal here. This is just a crazy look. And Dr. Phil is calling it out. Because I know there's a lot of people, even on the right, that still... they don't support Israel, but still would not like what happened on October 7th. That's pretty crazy. That's wild. That's these atrocities. This is like crimes against humanity. This is pretty crazy. The same way that they probably don't like, the bombings of Palestinians. You should not like this post. This is a crazy post. But when it comes to Zohran, there's this line in New York City from everybody that he's pretty much connected to that they love that type of stuff. Right? They love that. There is no balance. There is no consistency. They love. So it's pretty crazy. Let's keep listening here.
Only someone supports the Palestinian cause. Anyone who likes what happened on October 7th is not standing for human rights. They're standing with terror. Mayor Mamdani defended his wife, saying,
my wife is the love of my life, and she's also a private person who has held no formal position on my campaign or in my city hall.
But let's get real and talk about the real story. When you're the spouse of the mayor of the largest city in America and you're supporting the murder of hundreds of innocent Jews, trust me, that's not private. That's public. And Mayor Mamdani, hear this clearly. When terror is excused, silence isn't neutrality. It's complicity. And that's the real story.
Wow. So Dr. Phil then carried on. And again, this is not the first time Dr. Phil has spoken about this. He actually spoke about Ilhan Omar, which I want to play as well. He basically is going after these Democrats with these ideologies. So let's carry on, and I'll play what he said about Ilhan as well. So let's take a listen.
Let's be clear. These are not simply pro-Palestinian posts. These are posts that minimize, rationalize, and deny atrocities committed against Jews.
My wife is the love of my life, and she's also a private person.
Calling these private doesn't cut it. You don't get public power and private anonymity at the same time. Don't pretend the First Lady's views don't influence the mayor. I'm a social scientist, and decades of social science research show that spouses influence each other's thinking and behavior. Researchers at Oxford studying long-term relationships found that partners' lives become linked and mutually influential over time. The studies published in the Journal of Marriage and Family show spouses shape decision-making through emotional influence, advice, and reinforcement of beliefs. In other words, first spouses carry a lot of weight.
Yeah, so what a great breakdown. What a great breakdown there from Dr. Phil about this and what's going on, because it's not just his wife. There's a lot of people that work for him that have been linked to liking these atrocities. And again, I am of the believer that you can believe in what you want. As long as you can defend it and debate it out in public, then I respect you for it, no matter what it is that you believe in. But one thing we're not going to do is support people who are killing others in the way that they are doing it, which is one of the main reasons I don't support war at all. And I've been called out for being an isolationist, but I like to be very consistent in what I am and who I am. So again, right, the Democratic Socialist 34 was confronted during an unrelated event about his 28-year-old artist spouse liking Instagram posts that shared graphic imagery of the terror group's murderous rampage in the hours after the attack. And by the way, it's crazy that they got these receipts. This is what happens when you go and take the mayoral office, especially in the biggest city in the world. They're going to keep those receipts. They ain't going to be playing no games with you at all. So here's Dr. Phil also keeping the same energy with Ilhan Omar. When Ilhan Omar went on a rampage about the United States of America as well. Take a listen to this, because Dr. Phil didn't just snap here on, Mamdani and his wife. He snapped on anti-America movements by the Democrats. Take a listen.
Let's listen to some of what she said.
To have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world, to now be turned into one of the worst countries where the military are in our streets without any regard for people's constitutional rights.
Wait. Stop here. You can't make this up. Who are we talking about here? Omar fled Somalia, a failed state, a country ravaged by civil war, corruption, and poverty, and she spent years in a Kenyan refugee camp. I hate that for her. I really do. She resettled in the U.S. as a refugee. So happy for her. She was given housing, afforded education, opportunity, freedom. She became a citizen in 2000 at 17. Again, so happy for her. Thank God she escaped that terrible life. And she was elected to Congress, one of the first Muslim women in the House. The American dream. She has every reason to be thankful. Is she? Not even almost. Instead, she spends her time bashing the very country that saved her and her family. Here's more of what I consider garbage.
I mean, I grew up in a dictatorship. And I don't even remember ever witnessing anything like that. To have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world, to now be turned into one of the worst countries.
How about just thank you? Thank you for giving me a soft place to land. Thank you for giving me a track to run on. Thank you for giving me somewhere to be and thrive and grow. And, here's the thing. She has the right to say what she's saying. Culturally, psychologically, I think it's disgusting. But does she have the right to say it? Yeah, she does. Just like I have the right to say it's absolutely disgusting. And whoever voted for her now knows who they voted for and should kick her ass to the curb. Most shocking, instead of gratitude for America, she has the unmitigated gall to just spew nothing but unwavering disdain. And this isn't new. In 2019, she said,
"This is not going to be the country of white people."
In 2020, she said, "We must dismantle the whole system of oppression." It's so oppressive that she came here as a refugee, got all of these entitlements, and was elected to Congress. In June 2021, she compared the U.S. and Israel to Hamas and the Taliban, saying, "We have seen unthinkable atrocities committed by the U.S., Hamas, Israel, Afghanistan, and the Taliban." Really, she puts the U.S. on that list. That's crazy talk. She said lawmakers support Israel because it's all about the Benjamins, baby. When talking about 9/11, she said,
CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something.
"Really? Some people did something. Way to stand up for your country." She accused U.S. foreign policy of being rooted in colonialism and oppression. If this is such a horrible country, wonder why she doesn't return to Somalia. Well, maybe because Somalia isn't the most corrupt country in the world. It's the second most corrupt country in the world. It's 179th out of 180. Somalia hasn't had a stable central government for decades. 99.2% of Somalian women aged 15 to 49 have been subjected to female genital mutilation. In Somalia, child soldiers are recruited by warlords who employ tactics like abduction, threats, and forced indoctrination to recruit those children. Famine, tribal violence. The life expectancy there is 30 years short of the rest of the world. Adult literacy is less than 40%. Religious minorities, they're persecuted. LGBTQ, killed. But in America, she rose from refugee to congresswoman. She has freedom of religion, freedom of speech, security, yet somehow we are oppressors? Get real, lady. What are you thinking?
Wow. Mic drop moment for Dr. Phil when it comes to this. And again, he said something that was very interesting when Ilhan was talking about 9/11. Like, oh, some people did this. It kind of brings me back to the comparison to the way that Zoran has handled this situation as well. Zoran Mamdani, who protects criminals over law enforcement, says he wants New York City to be safe. Does anyone actually believe him at this point? Mamdani says, "I think first and foremost, just to make it clear to everyone that extremism and hatred of any kind will not be tolerated in our city. And that is regardless of whatever ideology motivates any person to commit an act of violence. There's no tolerance for it here. What we want to deliver is, to New Yorkers, is a city that is safe, a city that believes in the values of everyone who calls it home." So again, anybody at this point could just call New York City home. So that's not, it needs to be like actual people that have lived in New York City, live in New York City right now, who are citizens of the United States of America, who voted for you because they believed all the BS you were spewing. But the problem here is that the people that got caught, these young 18 and 19-year-olds, they were screaming Allahu Akbar. And so when you start as a Christian to have these conversations, right, like Sam Shimon's conversations, a whole bunch of different people who challenge the Islamic ideology or Islam's ideology or ideology of Muslims, Muslims who are in office often go and say that that's racist against me or my religion. And that is not an America I want to live in. I want to live in an America where we can have these open debates without the bigotry, of course. That does not take away that there's a lot of Congress people that have been saying a lot of crazy stuff that, again, in my opinion, is not going to do or help a actual conversation that needs to be had. We'll just never have it especially if you're representative of Christianity and you're talking, people are not going to be able to receive the message. You want people to receive the message, to understand what your stance is and why you have it. That is the most respectable thing you could do as a Christian, and not tolerate. Tolerance is what got us here. Tolerance from these white liberal women is because when you look at the guy, this is what tolerance looks like, right? Walter Masterson is a perfect example. This is a leftist, super anti-Trump guy, right? He is screaming in this video, everyone is welcomed in New York City.
We were born and raised in New York, and we want everyone here to stay in New York. You don't get to come from outside and then tell everyone else.
Okay, so this is what tolerance looks like. This is the man, a white, liberal, progressive person. None of that happens without this guy. Right? So next time your favorite YouTubers melt down about a religion, a race, or a creed, ask them who and what and where allowed that to be the case. And I promise you'll figure it out sooner or later. All right, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to smash the like button. Let me know what you guys think about all of this and more. Love to hear back. See you guys on the next one.
Thank you, LV Nation. And wow, Dr. Phil, thank you for really pointing that out. I don't feel so bad for Ilhan Omar, that poor thing. I mean, it's amazing how far she came, but ungrateful, really. Everything the United States has done for her, and growing up in Minnesota, and this is what she does, absolutely crazy. And I also want to point out the last part of our segment we just heard, they had that white middle-aged guy with the megaphone screaming to the people of New York City how bad things are. And the camera view shows the terrorist jumping up from behind him and throwing one of those devices that, thank God, did not go off and create the mayhem that they expected. It just shows you these people. Really? We all know Iran has been a terrorist nation and a thorn in the United States for 40 plus years. Yet, oh no, Trump is doing something about it. He can't be in power. Let's get rid of him. And Mandami, really, letting this happen and reducing the police force. Guess New York City gets what they vote for. It's just a shame. Anyway, I want to thank you all for listening and following me down this rabbit hole. We got more stuff next week. Hopefully the Iranian war is winding down like it looks like it is, because we're definitely kicking ass. But wow, amazing times, folks. Again, keep on the lookout for them sleeper cells. Really, now's the time to pay attention. Things can change very quickly. So with that, we'll see you next week. God loves you. God bless the United States. And we will see you real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.